what's going on everybody? It's ETAPRIME back here again. 8Bitdo just released some new colorways for their Pro 2 Bluetooth controller, and we're going to be taking a look at them. So we've got two new options. Both of them are transparent. We've got the black or the smoke black, and we've also got an atomic purple. Now, if you're a regular viewer of the channel, you know I'm a huge fan of atomic purple, and since I've yet to get my hands on a Pro 2 controller, I figured it was a perfect time to take a look at these. And out of the box, these controllers are going to work with Android, PC, Mac, your Raspberry Pi, so it will work with Linux, it'll work with the Steam Deck, and the Nintendo Switch. There are adapters available online that'll allow you to use these with an Xbox, or PS4, or PS5, but straight out of the box, these will not connect to those consoles. I kind of wish they would, but even over wired connections, it won't work with the PS4 or the Xbox. So yeah, here it is. Looks like it did come with some of these rubber analog covers. I'm not a huge fan of them. Sometimes they work out pretty well just to kind of give my controller a look, but I've never really run into an issue where I was slipping off and needed them. But yeah, I mean, atomic purple, definitely one of my favorite colors for these accessories, and this looks really, really good. As you can see, it is transparent, and this does come with a battery, so this is a rechargeable controller. You don't need to add any AA's or anything like that. If the battery ever fails, you can always replace it. It's 1,000 milliamp hour, and they claim up to 20 hours of gameplay out of a single charge. But yeah, I've always been a big fan of these controllers, and the Pro 2 definitely feels awesome. And if you're not into the atomic purple, they also offer this black version. I would call it more of a smoked black. And this one also looks really good, but I'm more into that atomic purple. And as you can see, we've got our D-pad, we've got A, B, X, Y, start, select, dual analog sticks. There's a mode button right in between the analog sticks, and we also have an 8Bitdo button and a star button. So all of this can actually be customized from the Ultimate software, and we're definitely going to be taking a look at that. And around back, we've got our mode switch, 2 extra mappable buttons, and yes, this has shoulder buttons and analog triggers. So yeah, feels really nice in the hand, and 8Bitdo's been on the scene for a while. They've taken a lot of user feedback, so we've got a really nice D-pad here. Got kind of a curve, makes it feel really nice, very ergonomical, and overall, all the buttons are very easy to reach. And I'm really excited about testing this out, but the first thing I always like to do with these controllers is update the firmware. And I also want to show you their Ultimate software because everything on this controller can be mapped. Alright, so yeah, the first thing you want to do is make sure you have the latest firmware. You can head over to their website, I'll leave a link in the description. We're going to download two things, the upgrade tool, this is going to update the firmware. And we also want the Ultimate software. This is going to allow us to totally customize the controller, adjust the ranges of the analog triggers and the sticks. Vibration control, you can set up a macro if you want to. It's just really awesome to have, so you can totally customize all of your inputs. I've already got both of them installed here. I'm going to go with my firmware, and it looks like we have a new firmware update. So I'll just go ahead, we'll go to 1.08, really easy to use, plugged in with the controller over the USB Type-C port. Alright, update is complete. Now let's check out the Ultimate software, because this is really where these controllers differ from others on the market. So right now I'm in Windows mode. On the back of my controller I'm switched to X. If we want to go, let's say, Switch or Android, it'll tell us exactly what to do here, but I'm going to go with Windows. And we've got a ton of different options. I mean, it's really too much to go over in this video, but just taking a look at the basics here. So here's our buttons. Here's the command that's going to be input when we press that button. So my L2 here, left trigger, LT. We can swap this to anything we want. And they come out of the box like really nicely set up, at least for me, but if you really do need to map this for some reason, you definitely can. Plus, we've got the buttons on the rear, P1, P2. If you want to map those, you can do it from here. Moving over to the sticks. So if I just give it a little bit of input on this left stick, you can see that it's showing me exactly where it is. We can go all the way up to 100%. But if you do need to take this down or knock it down just a little bit, you can. So now putting a little bit of movement in is going to bring us up to 100% instead of going all the way out. Now obviously going past this, we're still at 100%, but we can go way down with it. I mean, just minimum movement will take you up to 100. But it's great to experiment with this and find out exactly what you like. Moving over to the triggers, same thing here. We've got the analog triggers, otherwise known as linear triggers. And for racing games, I like to keep these as much as possible. That way you have a lot of input, a lot of play in between. But again, if you don't need that much play, you can set it up however you'd like. Vibration control, 2 motors in the palm rest. We can set this up for no vibration, or all the way up to 5. And I'll tell you what, these actually do put out some really good feedback. It's up to you, but if you're not into it, just go a little bit with it. And finally, macro. So this can come in handy for a lot of different people. Basically what we're going to do is first set up our hotkey. So I've set up my star key, and I'm going to go ahead and add one. Let's just say we want to set up kind of a special move for Street Fighter. And there we have it. So now I've got the star key set up as kind of a special move in Street Fighter for Ryu or Ken. Of course, some people would call this cheating, but I'm not playing in any tournaments or anything like that, and setting something like this up might come in handy for some people. But overall, when it comes to the Ultimate software, there's a lot we can get done with this, and like I mentioned, that's really what kind of sets these controllers apart from others on the market right now. Okay, so let's go ahead and test this controller out. So a lot of people will be using this with a Switch, so I figured we'd go ahead and pair it up real quick and just test it out. Round back, we've got that Switch. We're going to put it in S mode, which is Switch mode. Hold the start button. It's going to power the controller up. Move around to the top. We'll hold that pairing button. Now we're in pairing mode for the Switch. From here, we're going to go to our controllers. Change grip order. Grab the controller, press the L and R button, give it a second, and it's going to connect. I mean, it's really easy to get this paired up. And if you want to pair it up with your Android device or your Windows PC, you're just going to go to your Bluetooth settings. So yeah, we're now connected. I've just started up Sonic Mania. We can control the full interface on the Switch with the controller. And input latency is very minimal. I know some people, want a wired connection, and you could always plug this in with the dock. You can plug it into USB and it's going to work with the Switch. But personally, I like going wireless with it, and it works out really well. So yeah, you'll be good to go picking a controller like this up for your Switch. And the best thing about these controllers is it basically works with everything. So PC, Android, it'll even work with Mac, and we can set it up on all of those systems. So next up, I'm going to move over to the Steam Deck. So when pairing this controller up to a Linux PC or a Windows PC, we actually have two different modes. We can go D input or X input. I'm in X input right now, so the Steam Deck is actually seeing this as an Xbox controller, and that 8Bitdo button is going to work as kind of my Xbox button. That way I can bring up my menus. Everything's working really well here, but if you wanted to kind of pair this up as a PlayStation controller, you can use D input. It'll work with Windows or Linux, and with the Steam Deck in D input, it's going to detect it as a PlayStation controller, but it's really up to you. Another thing I always like to test with these controllers is the D-pad in fighting games to pull off those special moves. So I paired this up to my laptop in X input mode, and I'm using the Redream emulator for some Dreamcast. We've got Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and this D-pad works like all of the other newer 8Bitdo D-pads. I mean, it's a great little D-pad, and when it comes down to it, if you're not into using that, you can always go analog. And the final thing I wanted to test here was Android. So this will pair right up with your phone. They also make a clip to hold your phone, or you could connect this to a tablet using Bluetooth, and I'm in X input mode. Even though this controller does have an Android mode, I personally like setting it up kind of like an Xbox controller. When you're in your Bluetooth pairing menu, it's going to show up as the Pro 2 controller, but Android is really recognizing this as an Xbox controller right now. We can actually navigate the full operating system just like it is. So I've always been a big fan of 8Bitdo controllers, and when it comes to the Pro 2, this is one of my favorite wireless controllers. I love the Pro controller that they released, but this did have those extra features like the Ultimate software. We can fully customize all those buttons, the analog sticks, the triggers. You can really make this controller your own. Now I do wish it would connect up to the PS5 and the Xbox without any extra adapters or anything like that, but I understand why not. A lot of licensing involved with something like that. But if you're looking for an all-around great controller that'll work with Android, Windows, Linux, your Switch, your Raspberry Pi, even a MacBook or an iMac, then this controller might be for you. And again, in this video, we took a look at their new colorways, the black and the purple, or the atomic purple and the smoke black, but they also offer the Pro 2 in a few other colors. And these are gray, black, and G Classic, but if it was up to me, I'd pick the atomic purple every day. But that's going to wrap it up for this video. Really appreciate you watching. If you're interested in learning more, maybe picking one of these controllers up, I will leave a few links in the description. And if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. But like always, Thanks for watching.